Well, David Crisafulli, let's talk health. The support for caregivers seems secondary to the sort of processes in the department. The minister, I don't think she has any idea, but she says she's staying on because there's no one better in Labor to actually replace her right now.
Put aside the failings of Yvette Darth, and Gary, there are many. And I just said to you about the worst ambulance ramping and the fact that they covered up the wait times and all of the waiting lists. But every time we have raised a scandal, we have always, it's the same playbook. They deny, then they distract, and then they attack. So when we raised the issue with Mackay and told about the stories of young mums who'd never have babies again, we were accused of scaremongering. When we raised the issue of the failure of the DNA labs that's administered from health, we were told we were politicking. When we raised the issue of the Gladstone maternity service, there was nothing to see here, and now they're scrambling to try and say that somehow they'll find a solution for a city of 60,000 people who can't have a baby where and when and how they want. But for the big issue for me is the fact that the Premier is so checked out of her job that she won't even hold a minister accountable for all those failures. If you remember the Premier in her first term, when she was still interested in the job, she sacked the minister for not paying her rates, for not paying her council rates, and that minister wasn't even the local government minister. Well, fast forward to today, and we have ministers who are presiding over failure after failure in department. She is so checked out, she is refusing to hold any of them to account. And what does that mean? Well, it means that the services that Queenslanders deserve just are breaking down in front of their eyes.
Now, youth crime's rampant, violence in regional areas, far north Queensland. I mean, you're in those places all the time. What's going on?
A generation of young thugs who just know the law, mate. And it's soul-destroying to see what it has done to proud communities, particularly in regional Queensland. But the event on Boxing Day where a young woman lost her life, allegedly at the hands of young offenders with a rap sheet a mile long, well, I think that just sheeted home to Queenslanders just how broken the system is. And it just can't go on. Yeah. And we're losing the battle at both ends. We're losing the battle early on when young offenders are straying into crime. We're not focusing on helping them turn their life around and giving them education and employment. But likewise, we're so weak at the other end of the spectrum that they're just getting churned out. A police officer sent us the other day, and it was well documented across the state, a rap sheet of a young thug. He had 80 charges, 80 offences, never once faced court and been put in the pen, never once. Evaded police 14 times, never once spent a night in custody. The repeat broken cycle time and time again. And the government has made a couple of decisions that they own all of this. They have 12 fewer police today than they did 2 years ago, and they watered down the laws 8 years ago, and on the back of it, you just got a generation that they just know that their rights outweigh the rights of Queenslanders. And how do we get to that? Like that's a broken system.
Yeah, it is. And look, the infrastructure with the population booming into Queensland, it's a bit like the Premier, big glossy photos, but not much underneath. Regional infrastructure, well, it's even worse than here in what regional Queenslanders call the Kingdom of South East Queensland. We've got to do something about that. We've actually got to build stuff, water, power, those things, because people are coming here and we can't let them down.
Exactly. The government will always say, oh, look at this, people are moving here. That's great. You've got to build infrastructure ahead of the game, not wait for the next crisis. You've got to build infrastructure to protect the lifestyle of the people who are here, because that's the draw card for more people wanting to be Queenslanders. And at the moment, if you look at every major project that the government's presided over, there are blowouts running into the billions and billions of dollars, and you've got time delays running into the years and years. And what that means is there's less opportunities for people to benefit from that infrastructure because it's delayed, but also less money to build the next one. And I was in Mackay this week where the region's copped a good old-fashioned wet season drenching, and they're looking at the infrastructure. They're seeing roads that are delayed in their repair be completely and utterly destroyed. And what the locals are saying is, well, why don't we spend a bit more and build some flood resilience and help us not be cut off and make the roads stronger? But the government is so skint for cash, which is why they're looking for all these new taxes, that they're struggling to deliver the basic infrastructure, let alone have some vision and plan ahead. We've got some big challenges. Now, they're challenges we're up to, Gary, and I'm bullish about the future of Queensland, and I think we've got so much in the way of natural resources, but also new opportunities for education and medicine. We're a great state with a great future. But right now, the government has an inability to be able to do things on time and on budget. And that's the reason why the pressures are coming to bear, because there is less infrastructure being delivered than what should be.
Yeah, no, good on you, David Crisafulli. Thanks so much for your time. I wish him well. It's extraordinary because they're now talking about desalination and water recycling instead of building dams. Can you believe that? Come to Queensland and drink that. Really? That's the plan. That's David Crisafulli. Watch that space.